Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Water Debt Workshop. My name is Naomi Davis, and I'm the founder and CEO of BIG, otherwise known as Blacks in Green. And we are the producers of the Black Chicago Water Council. So happy to have you here tonight. Tonight's workshop is a special edition of our monthly Black Chicago Water Council. And it's a program which brings experts, leaders, residents, and others together for discussions about water affordability, solutions, and access. We are bringing you a program tonight with one of our very most favorite investigative journalists. But in light of Chicago's ongoing debt crisis, we partnered with her organization, WBEZ, and Elevate to make this workshop specifically geared toward helping Chicagoans navigate situations and find relief. Very much solutions oriented. On behalf of our partnership, I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. And I hope that upcoming information and resources are going to be valuable to you. So I'd also like to thank our presenters and their organizations for playing such an important role in this workshop. Thank you, Elevate, our very, very, very good friends, the Citizens Utility Board, Chicago Department of Finance, and CEDA for your help in putting this together. Shortly, Maria Ines Zamudio will give a presentation about her water debt investigation with special guest Carla Padgett from the Blacks in Green Network. And then we're going to dive into the workshop with an overview of the Chicago water system. We'll share information to advance your understanding of your water bill. And then we'll go through each step of the billing cycle. We know that it can be very, very confusing. So you're not alone if you're here for clarification. After that, you're going to learn about how to apply for financial assistance. There are some programs out there that are very, very critical now and available, and you can get your questions answered. If you're interested in how to use FOIA, that's FOIA, as you can see the acronym on the screen there. That's Freedom of Information Act access. We're going to have another section of the program, and you stay tuned for that portion of the program where Maria will be walking us through and doing some Q&A. It is going to begin shortly after information about administrative hearings. So Blacks in Green, who are we? Blacks in Green are the authors and teachers of the 8 principles of green village building. We are the authors and teachers of the 12 propositions of Grannynomics and the sustainable square mile system. And we have been leaders in the creating and reinventing that walk to work, walk to shop, walk to learn, walk to play village, where African Americans own the businesses, own the land, and live the conservation lifestyle. And so we've had 3 pillars at work, building economies in energy, horticulture, tourism, waste, and housing. And so we're here in our pilot program community of West Woodlawn, bringing a program which in our theory of change will increase household income of the present residents of a walkable village. It's our theory of change. We believe that should be the gold standard for all Black community economic development. And I will leave you in a segue and introduce my colleague for the evening on behalf of Blacks in Green with this word: water is a human right. We delved in 3 years ago when we launched here at the Green Living Room at 643133 South Cottage Grove. We delved in and we advanced through the pandemic, distribution of free water here, curbside at the Green Living Room in partnership with Elevate Energy. And we worked with Maria Zamudio at that time and discovered, or I should say rediscovered, just how fierce an advocate she is. You will be pleased and honored to know her. You can trust what she says tonight. And with that, I will introduce you to our colleague, Cheryl Watson, Sustainability Associate at Blacks and Green.
Thank you, Naomi, and hello, everyone. It's great to be here with you all this evening. Before we get started with the workshop, I want to give some tips so you can get the most out of tonight's program. Okay, let's just slide up. If you have questions at any time during the workshop, we strongly encourage you to share them using the Zoom chat box feature. Just click the chat image in the control bar on the bottom of your Zoom window. A sidebar will pop up where you can submit your question. If you don't want to share it with everyone, you can choose to send your message to an individual. In that case, please send your question to WBEZ's Alex Keith, and he will make sure your question is answered. Next, since we have multiple different presenters and lots of PowerPoint slides this evening, I want to show you how to see the slides and presenters at the same time. Can you see my arrows? I'm having difficulty getting this slide up here. Okay. So at the top of your Zoom window, you'll see a drop-down menu that says View Options. Choose side-by-side mode so you can see who's talking. Again, if you have any problems or questions, please let us know in the chat and someone will assist you. Finally, if you have a specific question about your water bills or account history, our presenters from the City of Chicago would like to follow up with you directly. If you're interested in having the city reach out to you about your account after this workshop, please email your full name, address, phone number, and account number to WBEZ's Alex Keith. His email is akeith@wbez.org. And he's also placing information into the chat box as well if you didn't catch that. So everyone should be able to engage throughout the workshop this evening and hopefully get your questions answered and the right resources to be contacted for you. So without further ado, let's get started. First up tonight, we have BEZ's award-winning reporter, Maria Ines Zamudio. Sorry about that. Maria's going to talk about her groundbreaking investigation into Chicago water debt and what she uncovered about the crisis that thousands of people are dealing with. After that, Maria will be joined by Carla Padgett, a homeowner from the South Side who saw her water bills skyrocket 30 times higher than they were 10 years ago. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. We have a lot of information, so we're going to get started really quickly, and we are going to give you as much information as we can, but please stay connected. Please share your questions in the chat or email Alex Keith. So I wanted to start off by just kind of talking about the work that I've been doing over the last few years. I've been covering issues around water affordability since 2018. My first investigation looked at the rising cost of water in Chicago and other cities along the Great Lakes. And I found that in the last decade, the cost of water for Chicagoans had tripled. And water shutoffs were disproportionately concentrated in majority Black and Latino neighborhoods. In fact, 40% of the shutoffs were concentrated in just 5 of the poorest zip codes in the city. After that, Mayor Lori Lightfoot responded to our reporting by issuing a moratorium on water shutoffs. But the story didn't end there. I received dozens of calls from people like you, calls and emails from Chicagoans asking me for help. So we're going to have a homeowner that I interviewed for this investigation joining us shortly. But let's get to the core findings of this story. My investigation found that for years, Chicago leaders had turned the city's water supply into a source of revenue. And many Chicagoans are going into debt because they can't afford a resource that they cannot live without. Since 2010, Chicagoans have accrued over $421 million in water debt. And more than 60% of that debt is concentrated in the city's majority Black zip codes. My reporting also outlined the punitive system for collecting water debt. The city's debt collection system has moved delinquent water bills into the hands of private debt collectors with little transparency and adding hundreds of dollars in the process. Since debt collectors keep 25% of the amount collected, they have an incentive to be aggressive. And the legal consequences are serious for Chicagoans. Many residents had millions of dollars of their earnings garnished from their paychecks to settle water debt issues. And many others had judgments and also statutory liens as a result of water debt. I want to stop here and invite Carla Padgett to join me. I met Carla last year as she patiently shared all of her documents, and she really allowed me to understand her struggle and also understand the system that impacts so many Chicagoans. So I'm not sure if I can see you, Carla.
I'm here.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's really, really good to see you. I haven't seen you in a little while, but let's talk a little bit about your story. When I first met you, you were in a really bad situation. Your water bill had become unaffordable, and you had lost your job temporarily because of the pandemic. And on top of that, the debt collector started calling. Can you tell us what was going on in your life and how you got into the situation?
Hi, everyone. Yes, let's see. Right, I guess during the middle of pandemic, I was working at a charter school. I was administrative assistant at a charter school, and I was actually working remotely at that time. So I was actually out of state working remotely, but would come home, every couple weeks, to check my mail, check my house, and got a notice in the mail, I guess toward the end of 20, that all of a sudden we were, I thought, in the middle of a water moratorium. So, no water shutoffs, anything like that. And then at that time, I think coming up, I was starting to get to the point where they were starting to do layoffs at the jobs because we were working remotely, just didn't have a way to know what was going to happen. But anyway, started getting notifications about from the city that they were going to start billing me monthly, which really concerned me because I just did not understand why in the middle of a pandemic would we all of a sudden start billing monthly, and the fact that we were in the middle of a water moratorium. So just kind of, started calling around, calling the water department, had been on a payment plan with the water department, although I was behind on payments, but just kind of was confused as to why all of a sudden all of these things started happening. So then again, like after the holidays, the first of the year, kind of was out of town, came back again, and then all of a sudden got another notice in the mail about a hearing that had already been held. The city of Chicago trying to place a lien on my property for a past due water bill. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold up, what's going on? Why? Just was so lost as to why and where all of this was coming from. So just started calling around different organizations. And that's how I actually met Marie, who kind of just started revealing, because as I found out she was doing the investigation as well, just kind of started revealing all of these things. I had no idea that I even had an unmetered account. This is a legacy property that I inherited from my grandfather. So kind of the same methods were applied, to the bill. So just had no idea that I was even being charged that amount. I didn't even really, I understood, metered versus unmetered, but didn't even understand that there was a program or things were going on in the city regarding that.
Yeah, I remember meeting with you and we were going over all of your letters and I was taking photos, and I remember being with you at the time and also not understanding a lot of this stuff, which is why we're hosting this workshop in hopes that more people can have access to this information. I want to get to something that's a big part of the investigation, which is the water and sewer tax and how that really had an impact on your water bill. Former Mayor Rahm Emanuel implemented the tax to help address the city's pension troubles. And that tax had a big impact on you, Carla. Your water bill increased by 30% in just 2 years following the tax. Can you help us understand the impact that this tax had on your financial situation? And did it make you change your lifestyle in any way?
Okay, so pre-pandemic, the way that I kind of managed my water bill was, I'm a single mom, just struggling. I have a building. I have a lot of, issues with my building. So just trying to, keep up with everything. I have 2 children. And was just, I would pay the majority of my water bill when I got my taxes every year, because I usually got a tax refund. So that's when I would kind of catch up on my bill. And then, all the while, being in a payment plan as well. And then I guess around 2017, 2018, I just, I didn't notice it, but I just kind of felt like, it wasn't enough to cover it. I just didn't have enough to cover it, things were happening. My car broke down, that was it for the month. So was just really struggling to pay the bill.
Yeah.
And always knowing in the back of my mind that, got to pay the water bill. I know, I guess during the winter months, they don't shut the water off. So just kind of, gauging, knowing around summertime, I definitely have to pay into it.
Sure.
And unfortunately, that's how I had to manage it,
Yeah.
As far as lifestyle changes, pre-pandemic, I wasn't, I'm a single mom. I don't have any extra income. I don't. I do what I can to get by for me and my children. And it did, and actually in the pandemic, I didn't get as much of a refund back. So, I started calling and trying to, make arrangements again with the water department, and just didn't have enough to cover it. And it's been really rough. It's been really rough. So there have been some significant changes, yes, to our lifestyle.
You're not alone, Carla. The reporting clearly shows it. And I'm so grateful that you allowed me to share your story, and you were so patient with me during the reporting process, because it did take a really long time. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we will be sharing more resources so that folks can understand what this is all about. I want to move forward to the next section because we have so much information to share with you all. I want to introduce tonight's presenters in order that you'll be hearing from them. First up, we'll be hearing from Anthina Gore with Elevate. She will talk about the complexities and inequalities of the city's water system. Then we'll be hearing from Joseph Jamborino with the Citizens Utility Board, and he's going to be helping us understand the water bills. And next up, we'll have Chicago Controller Rashima Sumni, I'm sorry, and Joel Flores from the city's finance department. They will give us a deep look into the city's billing system. And I'm very grateful to say that they will be taking individual questions. So thank you so much to the city for accommodating that. And then we'll also hear from James Flagg, an outreach coordinator with CEDA. He will go over available relief programs, and he will later be joined by Rashima to answer questions about those programs. And with that, I'd like to welcome Athena Gore with Elevate. And again, thank you all so much for dedicating so much time to this wonderful workshop.
Good evening, everyone. We certainly appreciate you joining us tonight. Again, Athena Gore with Elevate. I am a strategist on the water programs team. And just to give you a clear idea of where the information you're about to see is coming from, we have published reports about water affordability in the northeastern region of Illinois. That is our foundational research in 2020. And most recently in January of 2022, we published the City of Chicago Water Affordability Analysis. And the bulk of this information that you will see comes from there. And these are readily available online, and I'm sure they are linked in the resource guide that Alex has provided in the chat. So tonight, for this section, we're going to learn about what water debt is and how it may occur, and understand how it affects your home, your neighborhood, and neighborhoods across the city. So water debt is the previous balance listed on the current bill minus the payment. So this means arrears or any balance that is recorded as overdue. Debt occurs when you are no longer able to afford to pay the bill balance. And so this becomes a water affordability issue. This means that the cost of service is interacting with a customer's income in a way where the customer is no longer able to afford the bill. And what goes into the cost of service? Well, that's the water rate and other line items on the bill. So let's talk about what happened between 2009 and 2019. The data that we cover in our Chicago water affordability analysis is from 2015 to 2019. We looked at over 500,000 residential bills that were anonymized, so no identifying account information was provided. So if you look at the red line, this is the slope of these red dots, just showing how the water rates have increased over this 10-year period. The green line is the slope, or how steep these green dots generally are, and that's income. So the slope of the red line is steeper than the slope of the green line, meaning that it's going up faster than the green line is. So water rates, or the water bill in its composite form, is increasing at a faster rate than incomes in average across the city. The things that really make the water bill high aren't always necessarily the water rates. Yes, the rates do go up every year, but compared to other cities, especially those that are coastal communities, say California, Pennsylvania, areas like that, we actually have a pretty affordable water rate. But if we add in the garbage, as you're seeing in 2016, add in the taxes that were added in 2017, and other changes that came along after that, and then the fact that the water sewer mirrors the water rate, exponentially add up on the bill. So if you're wondering where it's coming from there, and I'm sure my colleagues will be able to explain that further in their presentations. So this is just another visualization of what's happening across the city. So in the city of Chicago, income, again, is not keeping pace with the rate of how fast the water bill in its composite form is increasing. It would take over a full day of work for low-income households to pay just one water bill. So what are the critical challenges? Well, non-meter customers are facing more affordability challenges than meter customers. At one time, there was a perception that if you get a meter, your bill's going to go up, the city's not going to keep their word about the cap, etc. That actually proves to not be completely how it plays out. So by the time we're getting to the 2019 section of our data, customers without meters are paying $500 more than metered customers. Secondly, multifamily buildings are seeing the highest rates of non-payment and debt increases over time. The assumption usually is that it would be single family, but it's actually two flats that are having the highest burden. And this could be because there's an owner of the two flat and one of the units may not be occupied, maybe both units are not occupied if it is a rental income property. And so you can see over time just the steady increase in that 2-unit orange block, especially between 2015 and 2018. And single family follows right behind it. Third, as Maria stated earlier, accounts in majority Black, Latinx, and actually Asian populated tracts are less likely to be metered, more likely to have leaks, and face on average higher water burden while using comparatively less water than accounts in majority white tracts. So when we say water burden, we're talking about in aggregate, all of the debt that is being carried by a specific group of people and how that, again, interacts with the average income of those households together. So as you can see here, in majority Black census tracts for the lowest income grouping, so people who have the lowest 20% of income in that tract, they're paying 19% of their average annual income into their water bills each year. That is completely unsustainable. And for majority Asian and Latinx tracts, they're not far behind. This means that essentially for just this group of people in the lowest income tracts across all races, Black folks are paying just about 10 times more than white people who are also in this lowest income grouping. Once you get past those income groupings into higher incomes, it doesn't hold. But for people that are really not able to have the financial flexibility, this is a critical aspect to understand for crafting water affordability responses and solutions. And the last thing I'll mention is that water debt carries significant weight. For 20% of customers with an outstanding water bill balance, the balance was larger than a full year's worth of bills. So the average Chicago bill, say about 2019, is about $500 some odd dollars. So there's a group of customers that are seeing upwards of $1,000 or more of bill balance carrying over. What does that look like in aggregate? Well, it looks like the maps that Maria posted earlier, and this is just, again, a breakdown of how it is with the census tracts, but as you can see, the areas that were dark in Maria's map are still dark on this map as well. So water bill burden, as defined here, is a ratio based on the percentage of a household's income that goes towards paying the bill. The EPA uses a 4.5% threshold, which is okay at the community level. It changes a bit once you get to the individual household level. Different metrics should be used. But as you can see here, the point is the map is still dark in all of the places that Maria pointed out. And the places that really aren't as badly affected are only here. This little chair that we've seen in every other map for poverty, for redlining, for everything else is the same map. So how is this impacting people? Well, clearly, if you just take a zoom through the chat really quickly, you can see even the attitudes now, people are upset because it sounds like there aren't things that are being addressed, but unfortunately, this is going to take time. Water affordability is a spectrum. As I showed in the last map, it's affecting how everyone in the city is living in their homes. It's affecting not only the south and west sides of Chicago, but it's creeping up into other neighborhoods that generally you don't see on this map. Home and property owners are facing increased costs. There's a need to become more familiar with site level water infrastructure. So that means finding leaks, being able to respond to emergency repairs. And there's nothing that can really be done if the money isn't there for those home and property owners to address those things quickly. And it also leaves the city in a bit of a bind too. So there are revenue requirements that the actual water rate, that one line item on the bill, that money goes back into the water system to maintain it. So that's why they have a revenue requirement to make sure that if there is a water main burst, people are able to get paid and deployed to fix that. There are also affordability and assistance programs that they have to consider definitely now in the wake of COVID-19. And honestly, the city did make a step forward by allowing us to analyze this data and look at how they can become more transparent and accountable to their constituents who are paying for the line items and the taxes on these bills. So everyone has to work together collaboratively at some point to get this resolved. And in the spirit of that, and keeping with the theme of tonight's presentations, we just want to put forward that if you do not have water service at your home right now, Elevate is working with the city to get people reconnected to water. We have a water reconnections team. Our colleague, Colleen Collins, is the manager for that. You can contact her, the information on the slide. If you have questions about your bill or about the assistance programs that you're learning about tonight, we have a fully staffed and capable community resource team that is led by Yami Newell. If you have Spanish-speaking friends, family, other neighbors that need help, Jose Hernandez, the manager on the team, is available and their contact information is there. And coming up next, Understanding Your Water Bill, presented by Joseph Giambardino, who is the Sustainable Communities Liaison at CUB.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Anthena. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. My name is Joe Giambardino. I'm Sustainable Communities Liaison with Citizens Utility Board, or CUB, and I'm very, very honored and happy to be here this evening. I'm really going to be presenting just kind of what I hope is an overview for people, or a recap for people of how to read and understand your water bills a little bit more. So we here at Citizens Utility Board believe that the first step to being an educated consumer is making sure you're understanding exactly what is on your bill, line by line. So we're going to take a walk through that very quickly, and I'm going to very briefly discuss where some of that money is going to before passing things off. So the basics, as I'm sure, again, many of us know, the city of Chicago is responsible for supply and delivery of water to all of us who are citizens that live here. And there are really fundamentally two types of water bill accounts in the city. The first is a metered account, and then there are non-metered accounts. And so as the names imply, metered accounts are those properties, those houses, those households that do have meters installed that are capable of measuring the overall water usage within that household. Non-meter accounts, on the other hand, don't have any way of definitively measuring the amount of water that's being utilized. So that can trip things up, as Anthena was alluding to in her presentation. While metered accounts tend to be billed on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, non-metered accounts should be billed relatively monthly. Again, that can depend on specific circumstances or situations, but for the most part, that's kind of how the billing should look. And then metered account customers, they obviously pay a rate based on the overall usage, the amount that the meter is measuring in either cubic feet or in gallons, whereas non-metered consumers have to pay a flat rate based off of a variety of factors that I'm going to talk about in just a couple of slides here. So again, we like to dive into the actual bills themselves. So we'll start with an example here of a non-metered city account. Just for reference, this is a slightly older bill. There are a couple of kind of differences compared to the bills that are coming out nowadays, and I'll make sure to address those. So this is a non-metered water bill on the left-hand side of the screen. And you can note that there is a long billing period in this specific instance. So just take that into consideration as you're looking at it. But it starts on the top portion by kind of outlining the basic information. So the customer's name, account number, all that good stuff, followed by the address of the property. And then right there, you can see where it says whether or not you are with a metered or a non-metered account. You can also find out by flipping to the second page of the bill, which I'll discuss in just a moment, but it's possible that it'll appear up on that first page as well, so that you'll know whether or not you do have a meter at the property if you don't already know. And then we really move into the kind of meat and potatoes of that bill with an itemized overview of all of the charges on the bill there. So you can see in this specific example or this sample bill, there were no previous balances, adjustments, or payments. But really the next three charges under those, which are current water, current sewer, current garbage, and there's a fourth one that I'll talk about in just a moment, that's where the actual charges are coming from. So you can identify those a little more clearly and begin to understand what you're being charged per month or per billing cycle on that water bill. Flipping over to, well, I guess the bottom of the first page there is, of course, the part you can rip out and send a check in. But flipping over to the second page of the bill, you'll notice on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, that is the really fundamental, important part of understanding your non-metered bill. And that is where the assessment details are available to you. So as was mentioned before, if you are not metered, the way that they calculate the flat rate that you're going to pay is based off of kind of the size of your home and a few other factors, including the plumbing. So you can see in this example, it's a 2-flat home, it's a 23-foot wide building, and then there are a few different kind of fixtures or plumbing facts down there. So you can see a number of bathtubs, sinks, toilets, etc. This is all used to help factor and figure out what that flat rate is going to be. So for those of you who are non-metered customers, always take a peek at the second side of that bill to understand exactly what they are charging you for in that flat rate. Alternatively, we'll move on to a metered water bill. Again, kind of the same fundamental first side, other than it's saying that it's a metered account, those same itemized charges for current water, sewer, and garbage. And we'll want to flip over to the second page to better understand the amount of water that's being used in that home, since that's something that can be measured with a metered account. And so, stop working. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. So you can see on the bottom left-hand side of the screen there, that is where the meter reading details on the bill can be found. So it's measured sometimes in gallons, sometimes in cubic feet. It kind of depends. You can see there the current and the previous, the previous and the current readings. And then the farthest right-hand column of actual or an estimate. If you ever see that it changes from the A for actual to an E for estimate, you will want to reach out to the city immediately, because it's possible that the meter might not be functioning properly. You want to make sure that you're always getting a correct reading so that you're not overpaying or potentially even underpaying for the amount of water that you're using. As of right now, the approximate cost of water per 1,000 gallons is a little over $4. And then you, of course, need to multiply that by the sewer charge, which is a 100% charge. So you're talking about a little over $8 per 1,000 gallons of water used within a home. So 4 fundamental charges. I've talked about water. I've talked a little bit about sewer. There are garbage fees as well, which is a flat rate that's paid by the month. And then there is the tax that Anthena was talking about before, which is the water sewer tax. And that is that 4th charge that didn't appear on the sample bills that I was showing. That tax is charged at a rate of 59 cents per 1,000 gallons of water and sewer. So a combination of both of those two. So those are kind of the basic charges that you would expect to see on the bill and that are driving up the overall costs of our bills here within the city. So where does the money go? That's the next logical question that a lot of people ask us when we're talking about really any utility bills. And I guess really the short answer depends, or the short answer rather, is that the money goes back into ensuring that the system is continuing to work for us to an extent, right? So again, Anthena kind of covered it a little bit. There's maintenance, there are requirements for paying the staff to maintain lines. If there's ever any type of emergency situation, there needs to be a fund to be able to pay for those fixes, et cetera. And so the water and the sewer charges are really being put right back into the city's Department of Water Management to make sure that they're covering all of those expenses. The garbage fee goes to the streets and sanitation management part of the city. I will point out that the amount that we pay as our garbage fee is actually a little bit cheaper than a lot of private companies. Nevertheless, it still is impacting our bills overall. And then there's the water sewer tax, which might be the most controversial part of the entire bill, or of the entire water bill. That actually began in 2017 and really is utilized exclusively to help make mandated pension payments. So that's where that money from that tax is going on your bills, rather than going back into the infrastructure. It's actually being used to make sure that retirees from the city are receiving the pensions that they should be receiving after they are done with their work. And so finally, I did just want to end things by saying that we here at CUB are very concerned about the rise of the for-profit water companies around the state. So we would argue that while things certainly need to change here in the city, we do have some extreme situations and circumstances that are not tenable in the long term, that we should be grateful to have a municipal system. And the reason for that is because we are able to affect more change than we are compared to those people who are unfortunately living with for-profit water systems. Those for-profit companies are completely, everything is opaque in what they do, whereas we are seeing increased transparency as of late with the city of Chicago's kind of water department. So I just wanted to kind of level set and explain a little bit about the fact that overall it's a good thing that we are with a municipal system, because we should be able to have better oversight and a little bit more transparency compared to a lot of our friends in the rest of the state of Illinois who are having their municipal systems bought by these for-profit entities. So on that note, that's where I'm going to stop. My slides aren't working yet again, and pass things over to our friends from the city of Chicago.
Thanks so much, Joe. Good evening, everyone. My name is Reshma Soni. I'm the comptroller for the city of Chicago and work in the Department of Finance. And with me, I have Joel Flores, our first deputy director for the department as well. We're going to walk you throughout the billing cycle itself. So some of the information that Joe went through, and then some of just additional information on how we bill, how often is the billing cycle, some new changes that we have, and then we'll talk about the UBR program. Next slide, please. Right, next slide. So I'll turn it over to Joel, who will go through the metered billing versus non-metered billing.
Thank you, Reshma. Hi, Joel Flores, First Deputy Department of Finance. I've been with the city for over 20 years, worked under a few different administrations. We wanted to start off the discussion on water billing with the difference between meter billing versus non-meter billing. Look at a few bills, see what the charges are on those bills, and discuss the billing process, and then get into the financial help. 1 second, I need to ask for control. Sorry about the delay. Great. So the difference between meter billing and non-meter billing, as Joe had previously stated, metered bills are based off of the water that's being used. There is a meter that's installed in the property. Trucks drive by, read the meter, and that's how meter bills are billed out. They're processed. We get readings regularly from most meters, but occasionally the trucks that drive by do not properly read the signal, or there's a remote transmitter issue. We do ask that if there's any issues with how the meter is being read, that you contact customer service, and the phone number is below here on the slide, 312-744-4426. Again, metered accounts, they're based off of usage. And getting into non-metered accounts, those are based off of the assessed value or a flat rate, based off of the number of units in the property, the access to the water, the number of fixtures, And we'll get into the specific charges of what's included on that water bill. Understanding your water bill, what charges do you see on your water bill? Water service, sewer service, water and sewer tax, the garbage refuse fee, any penalties that may have been assessed, and then other fees such as full payment certificates. Getting into what a sample bill image looks like. This is for a metered bill. We wanted to concentrate on the red boxes. When you open up a cell phone bill or a gas bill, what you're looking at what is the bill that's due, when is it due, what are those charges, is it in kilowatts, is it in therms? So this is a metered account. It's billed out every 2 months. How do you pay? Where do you pay? What are the customer service numbers? That is all laid out on the bill, and we've isolated that to the red boxes here on the slide. The second page of the meter bill discusses what the charges are associated with a metered account. What's the cost per 1,000 gallon? How much was actually used? What is the sewer tax? That is all included on page 2 of the water bill. Also on page 2 of the water bill is the number of dwelling units. If it's a 2 flat, you'll see a number 2 on there, multiplied by the $9.50 per month. For the garbage fee, you will see that on your bill. Again, at the end, we'll see on the bill where to pay, how to pay. We have our customer service number. We have an IVR that's 24/7 where you can get on a payment plan, make a payment over the phone. The next example is a non-metered bill that is on a payment plan. So again, on the right-hand side of the bill, you'll see that the payment plan is $12.27 per month. The total dollar amount that needs to get paid is the current charges as well as the payment plan charge. And then getting into the second page of the bill, as previously stated, is based on an assessed value in terms of fixtures, size of the property, number of dwelling units. And again, we have where to pay, access to our website. Sorry, jumping into what a UBR bill looks like. This is for a metered account. On the right-hand side, you'll see what the savings are for a UBR participant. UBR is utility billing relief. How much is on hold? What is set aside? What's the anniversary date? What is the total amount due? Moving into the last slide on the billing cycle, this pretty much lays out the number of notices that we send out before any water services or water debt is referred out. So from when the bill is issued, 21 days after the bill is sent out is when payment is due. We'll send constant reminders throughout the entire cycle before any referrals of debt.
All right. Joel, thank you for going through that. If there are any questions about the billing cycle or the late fees, please let us know. I'm going to turn it over to Al Keefe.
Thank you.
He's going to moderate.
Thank you, Controller. We do have a lot of questions in the chat tonight, and we also have some folks who submitted questions ahead of time. We're likely not going to be able to get to everybody's questions, but the city has committed to following up directly with those of you who would like that. Again, you can email me directly, akeefe@wbez.org, and we'll send a follow-up email about that as well. We got more than 100 questions from folks before tonight's event. Nearly half were asking about how to get financial assistance, and we're going to talk about that in the next section. But first, I'd like to start by asking a question that lots of people posed when they registered for this event about how to get a water meter. We've been hearing about that tonight. As was mentioned earlier, the city suspended its meter save program after the Chicago Tribune found elevated levels of lead in homes that had new meters. My question to the city officials here is, when can Chicagoans expect to be able to get water meters again so they could stop being overcharged for water that they're not using?
So that information would be more with the water department. We do billing, but the water department and the city overall is committed to be able to get this process going as soon as possible. Again, there's a few things that are involved in this. One is definitely to make sure we have proper funding, but also want to make sure that while we're doing the meter save program that's out there, that things are being installed safely. So I know that there is a goal for later this year to start getting that process going through the water department.
Mm-hmm. And is there a timeline for having a light at the end of the tunnel for folks who want to get a meter to get their bills lowered? And what kind of conversations are happening at City Hall to work toward that?
I mean, we've been proactively looking at many different things. The first thing we tackled is UBR, and that we'll talk about in the next section or segment of this program. But UBR, the utility billing relief program, is really the main program that we're looking at to be able to provide relief to those individuals, either metered or non-metered, by reducing their ongoing bills by 50%. Now, most recently, what we got approved at City Council is this was a pilot program that was only going on for about 2 years. We were able to extend it, so now the pilot is removed. It's a permanent program, and every year, as long as you qualify, and it's a very short process to re-qualify, you can get 50% off your water, sewer tax bills, basically forever if you're in that qualification. The qualification is 200% of your overall income, household income.
I'm sorry, Controller, I didn't mean to cut you off.
And then one other program that we are working on is LIHWAP, and that is a program that's funded by the federal government through the state. And that is an exciting program that we're starting right now with the state as well. We've already started the program solely. We're working with CEDA on that program as well. But what that program does is expand the overall universe to not only single family and 2 flats, but also to larger units. If you have a 3 flat or a 4 flat, you would be able to qualify as well. So that's a good thing. When we started this program, the cap was 150%. That was LIHWAP's cap of 150% of income, but now we're looking at 200%. The other thing I want to mention is it doesn't have to be over the last year. It's really the last 30 days we're looking at. Unfortunately, we know situations change. Sometimes somebody moves out of the house that might have been a breadwinner, and now the income for the household has gone down, or changes in jobs may happen, and all of a sudden you are in that bracket of that 200%. That's the time to apply. You don't have to look back the whole year and say, did I qualify for the whole year? So these programs are going on, and we are continuously looking at ways to reform our overall charges, fines and fees, and other areas that we know are very important to our residents and businesses, small businesses, so they can get back on their feet and be in compliance, and also just pay less for those services.
I want to piggyback on something you just said, Controller, and my last question about meters here. We've been seeing lots of people in the chat tonight saying they have, one person said they had a $4,000 water bill on an unmetered property. Another person was saying a $17,000 water bill on a vacant property with no plumbing that hasn't been occupied in 10 years. We got lots and lots of examples of this from people who registered. And I'm wondering, why isn't there a better way to estimate this, or an easier way for people to set the record straight about their actual usage in the absence of a plan to reinstate installing water meters?
So in terms of actual usage, the way the metered or the non-metered program works is in a household, they figure out how many faucets or how many toilets you have and accordingly charge. It is an estimate. We are looking at ways to be able to revise those estimates, recalculate and see if we can sort of reset the non-metered part. To your point, Alex, it will take time, right? Even if the program starts tomorrow, it's not that we're going to go out and install meters in 100,000 homes overnight. It will take time. So that is something that we're looking at to be able to recalibrate or calculate that portion as well.
Has the city considered changing the way it estimates things until it can restart the meter program?
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. So that's what I meant. We're looking at re-estimating or recalibrating those amounts to be able to better estimate.
We have a couple questions in the chat about collection agencies when bills are sent to collection. How are these agencies selected? How are their fees calculated? And sort of what protocols does the city keep with those vendors? Can you talk a little bit about that system?
So even before we talk about that, one thing I do want to mention is our goal is to not get into collections. We have a lot of payment plans that are offered that you do not need to go through a law firm to be able to sign up. You can call up our phone number 744-4426 and be able to get onto a payment plan of up to 36 months, even if you don't qualify. The beauty about LIHWAP and UBR is if you do qualify, or LIHWAP and UBR is if you do qualify, we actually set aside past debt that you have. And so those programs are more beneficial to those individuals. Even if you are in collections, if you qualify for UBR, you can sign up for the program. Joel, I know there are some questions about the actual law firms itself. If you could add some info on that.
Sure, that's an engagement with the law department. There's approximately 5 different law firms that manage the debt collections for water service. And I think one of the questions was about the percentage. So it's based off of what's collected. It's 25% of what's collected.
And what sort of credit reporting protocols does the city keep with those vendors? Can you speak to that, Joel?
Credit reporting in terms of, do we do credit reporting for homeowners?
This was a question dropped in the chat regarding credit reporting protocols regarding the vendors that do the collections.
That's an engagement with the law department. The law department is the department who engages with those external law firms.
Mm-hmm. Getting another question tonight about vacant properties. We've had a few of these that have come in. Is there a way for people to let you know if a property is vacant so they're not getting charged for water?
So there's a vacant building registration form to fill out with Department of Buildings. That's really for safety reasons as well. Department of Buildings needs to know if there's a vacant property that you own. Once you sign up for that property, you can let us know. And we would be able to put that into a vacant building and not charge.
To add to that, there's actually an online application where you can data key your address and your utility account number, and that's how we're notified immediately that property is vacant. It also notifies other public safety departments, like Reshma stated, that there's a vacant building within a certain neighborhood.
And is the registration fee, or is there free, or is there a cost for being listed as vacant?
So as part of the last year's revenue management ordinance, the fee was reduced dramatically. I don't know what it is. It's approximately $30 for the application, I believe.
Yeah.
I want to change gears and get a question in from Lori, who's watching tonight. And they asked, can you please explain the automatic rate increases that are shown on the back of a water bill?
So in terms of automatic rate increases, it's actually not automatic, but there is in the code an increase that happens based upon CPI, Consumer Price Index. It is capped at 5%, and that is to be able to afford to run the water system. Not only salaries for individuals, but we have to do things like testing for chlorine, making sure the water is purified, safe. There's a lot of backup systems that are used. Chicago is one of the largest systems in the world, and we want to make sure that the water that we provide is safe. So we do need to be able to pay for those things. The CPI increase, what it does is it keeps us in line with increases that our vendors have. One example I can give you that I know everybody has felt in some way, shape, or form is with COVID. The cost of many things have skyrocketed, including chlorine. Chlorine is essential for our water system to be able to provide cleaning of pure water. The cost went up 40%. And that's something, and not only the cost going up, but we actually see the inventory not available, it's scarce. So those are the kind of things that we're trying to balance, and we need to cover those costs. So doing the CPI is a way for us to be able to cover those costs.
I have another question about the billing process tonight. It comes from L, who's watching. They say the city's website says a 60-month payment plan is possible, but collectors have contacted them to say it's only a 24-month payment plan that they're being offered. Could you help us understand the discrepancy?
So currently we have a plan that's up to 36 months. So it's surprising they say 24 and 60. The 24 and 60 months sounds more like what we do with our fines and fees reform. We do have different, like an early payment plan, a standard payment plan, and we've just started a new program called CPR, Clear Path Relief Program, for individuals who have parking ticket debt, and to be able to, very similar to UBR, set aside parking ticket debt, pay off an amount that's due at a base level fine, and then get the old debt older than 3 years wiped off. I'm not familiar with 60 months, but Joel?
That's on the vehicle violation side, Reshma.
Yeah.
And we've had a few questions from people coming in who have inherited property. Rita asks this evening, can the children of a deceased person change the water bill into their name and possibly receive assistance for that? I know we're going to talk about assistance in a second, but I'm hoping you could speak to those points.
So usually whenever there's, and obviously in this situation it's a bit different, but usually when you're sharing or you're transferring over property, you have a full payment certificate that is done at that time. If a parent or someone who's passed away provides a property and you inherit it, at that point in time, we can look at seeing if there's the debt itself can be put into the name, and then be able to come up with these relief programs. Joel, I'm not exactly familiar with the deceased property, if that debt comes over to the next person or not. I know that we can change the name and you have to create a new account number, but it's a new account on the property itself.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that process.
We can get back,
For deceased.
if we can get the information for that individual, we can get back to them if they have specific questions.
Certainly, yeah, we could certainly share that. We have a lot of questions regarding the relief program. I know, Controller, you're going to do a quick presentation on that, and then we'll come back and we could ask some more relief questions. But
Yeah, we are very excited to talk about that, and we have really good momentum. So I think we'd like to get to that if that's okay, or unless there's more questions, we can definitely answer.
Seeing anything else drop in the chat, but lots of relief questions, I think.
Excellent. So, we touched base a bit on the utility billing relief program, or what we call UBR. The purpose of this program is financial relief for the water, sewer, and water sewer tax rates, where we have no penalty, no late payment penalties, and debt relief as well. So the way the program works, and I'll give an example because I feel like examples work the best. Let's say you have, somebody had mentioned $4,000. Let's say you have $4,000 of past due debt, and your bill on a monthly basis is $80. What we do is if you qualify for the UBR program, and that's if your income for the last 30 days, your household income is less than 200% of the federal poverty line, then you can sign up for the program. The information that we ask for is quite easy. We ask for the account number, just proof that you live in the property, and then some backup of the sources of income to be able to make sure you qualify. But in that example that I gave, the $4,000 would be set aside, and then your bill, let's say if it's $80 a month, would be reduced to $40 a month. And yet, as long as you make 12 monthly payments of that $40 a month and you complete the program, that $4,000 past due debt that was set aside would basically be forgiven, which is a great program. And again, as I mentioned before, you can reapply for the program. So let's say the 1 year is up, you've graduated, the debt is gone, but you still qualify for utility billing relief. Then again, you can just apply and substantiate income and household. And then you're getting that $40 a month for another year. And that can go on to perpetuity as long as you meet the qualifications. And our goal is really to get that past due debt off the books and off of people's books as well as ours, and then be able to provide a more affordable way to pay for water, sewer, the water and sewer supply. So the key features of the UBR program, as I mentioned, that 50% reduction and the past due debt that we have, it's at the time of enrollment that it's set aside. So the good thing is you will see the set aside amount on the invoice or on the bill that you get, so you know how much exactly is set aside. And then the billings is also switched to monthly for more manageable payments. One of the other things we did in December 2020 is the non-metered bills that we were getting or we were mailing out was only once every 6 months. So it was a lot of money to pay in one shot. We have reduced, or we have changed that to a monthly payment. But this UBR program also allows us to do monthly, so it's more manageable. And then again, no penalties or debt collection activity while you're enrolled in the program. The eligibility criteria is modeled after LIHWAP, and I know we'll talk about LIHWAP here as well. The LIHWAP program is a program that CEDA has also been very much involved in, and CEDA has been kind enough to help us to do UBR as well. So meeting both either the through the low income home energy assistance program, you can automatically be qualified for UBR. So if you're already enrolled in LIHWAP, you automatically get enrolled into UBR as long as you sign up. The good thing about UBR also is undocumented residents can participate. So this is a program that's supposed to be expansive to all. And right now, as I mentioned, it's for homeowners with single family homes and 2-flat, but LIHWAP, which is something we'd like to talk about when that program really gets moving and working with CEDA on that program as well, would be a way that 3-flat or 4-flat homes can actually sign up and get some relief as well. So just to give an idea here, we have a link here on the left-hand side. If you have a phone, you can use the QR code or go to chicago.gov/UBR where you could sign up for our program. It's extremely easy to sign up. And then just to give you an idea, what we're looking at the 30-day income. So if you're a household size of 4, we're looking at in the last 30 days, has your household earned more than $4,367? So that's the threshold we're looking at right now. And as I mentioned, the UBR enrollment anniversary date is a 1-year anniversary date. So from the time that you sign up, you have to make 12 monthly payments, again, of a reduced bill for water, sewer, and water sewer tax. When that anniversary date arrives, we would check to see if you're current on payments. If you are current, then the past due debt will be forgiven. You graduated from the program at that point, and it will be removed from the account. If you're not current, then the debt will be placed back on the account. But if you're eligible for UBR, you can get another opportunity to pay all the bills and have the debt forgiven. But if you're no longer eligible for UBR, then we do offer a payment plan option. So how UBR works, this is our website. It gives you a bit of a background of the program, what it offers. Uber is our UBR mascot here for the FAQs. And then you can verify eligibility. Very easy to just go and click and verify if you're eligible. I will turn it over to James, who will walk through the CEDA portion.
All right. Thank you so much, Reshma. Hello, and thank you guys for sticking around for CEDA's LIHWAP presentation. As Reshma mentioned, my name is James Flagg, and I am one of the outreach coordinators for CEDA of Cook County. I've been in this role for about 6 years now, traveling throughout Cook County with the goal of connecting communities, families, and individuals with CEDA's grant-funded resources and services. So I'm very happy to be with you all this evening. Before jumping into the presentation, I did want to give a huge shout out to our partners in service at BIG, Blacks in Green, as well as WBEZ for allowing us to participate in today's event. Thank you both for your partnership. It's been a blast working with you guys. Now, if you or anyone you know are having trouble or challenges paying your water bill or water sewer tax bill, and you're interested in applying for assistance through CEDA, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to discuss the LIHWAP program, the application process, and a few additional resources and service offerings through CEDA. But before we do, I did want to highlight some of the information just discussed by Reshma and Joel from the City of Chicago during the last presentation. You can see on the slide, the Water Bill Assistance or Utility Bill and Relief Program is a partnership between CEDA and the City of Chicago. UBR helps Chicago residents access discounted rates on bills, up to 50% off, and forgiving balances with program participation. Our role as CEDA is to connect you with water bill assistance. So for more information on that program, please visit the website that you see on the slide, or you could always check out CEDA's website, www.ceda.org.net, Click on water assistance, then follow the prompts to connect with or apply for UVR services. Now, regarding the rest of my presentation, I will first discuss LIHWAP, then I'll share a little information on additional services offered through CEDA before opening up the question and answer portion of the presentation. So jumping right into it, the first question is, what is LIHWAP? For those that were not aware, in 2021, Congress appropriated approximately $1.1 billion in funding for a new emergency water program and wastewater program, which is called the Low Income Home Water Assistance Program, or LIHWAP. Now, LIHWAP is a program that helps make your water and water sewer tax bills a bit more affordable. This is done by providing a benefit or payment to you for your water bills. Now, essentially, LIHWAP keeps the water and wastewater services running for households who are behind on their payments. Now, this program helps customers by providing a deposit to assist with rate reduction, past due balances, or arrearages. And lastly, it helps prevent service disconnection. Now, these one-time payments will apply to all income-eligible households. I'll talk a little bit about eligibility momentarily. However, applicants must prove they meet the income requirements and they are responsible for their water and water sewer bills. Reconnection assistance is also a part of LIHWAP. It is based on funding availability, and the service is used for eligible households that are trying to establish new water service in the name of an adult household member. Now, before we go through the application process, I did want to touch briefly on LIHWAP eligibility. Now, LIHWAP is only available for residents of Cook County, so Chicago and surrounding suburbs at the moment. In order to be eligible for LIHWAP, your water bill must show that the household is either disconnected, is in danger of imminent disconnection, or has a combined balance of $250 or more in arrearages. Now, the maximum benefit that can be provided per household is $1,500 at the moment. So please keep these numbers in mind when you apply for services. Now, once you have satisfied the initial eligibility requirements, next you want to check and see if you meet the new and expanded income guidelines. Now, as you can see on the screen, we are sharing our income guidelines table. Family size means the number of people residing in your home, so grandma, kids, or anybody else under your roof at the time of application. For example, gross income means your income amount before taxes are taken out. And as Reshma mentioned previously, for example, a family of 4 making a combined gross income under $4,367 will qualify for LIHWAP services. Now, after verifying your eligibility, next you want to get your documents ready to apply. Now, we're going to cover a lot of information here in a very short amount of time, but please keep in mind you can find all of this information on our website at www.ceda.org.net. Now, before you apply, you first need to provide proof of 30-day gross income for every household member ages 18 and older. Income includes your wages, Social Security benefits, TANF, ABOD, unemployment, proof of cash wages, etc. Income proof is also required for children who receive child support, and individuals who receive Social Security benefits also needs to submit that information as well. Now, once all of your income documents are in order, you will need to submit Social Security numbers for all members of your household. Now, if you need help accessing your Social Security or supplemental security income benefits, please visit the Social Security website at ssa.gov/myaccount. Again, that's ssa.gov/myaccount, and they will be able to produce you an instant letter. Now, I do want to make the point that we do service undocumented individuals or households with undocumented residents. However, at least one household member must be a U.S. citizen at the time of application. Now, that bit of information does cover your proof of identity and proof of income requirements. Next up, you'll want to get a copy of your current water bill or water sewer tax bill, also known as your wastewater bill. Now, for those of you who rent, if your water is included in your rent, the rent cost must be greater than 30% of the current household 30-day gross income in order to meet the eligibility requirements. Again, all of this information is on our website. Please follow along if you need to. Now let's go through a bit about the application process. Now there are a few options available to start the application process. Customers can start the LIHWAP application over the phone by calling the CEDA call center, and I'll give you that number. It's 1-800-571-CEDA or 1-800-571-2332. You may also look online for local partner intake sites at the website you see on the slide, which is www.cedaorg.net/sites. If you do need that link, I'll be sure to drop it in the chat a little bit later. However, please know that you can find all these links and information on our website under www.cedaorg.net/find services. Now, you may also request services online via the State of Illinois pre-application link that you see on the slide. Please be mindful that this is not an official application. This is only just a smart sheet or online document that allows you to request services online. Now, going back to the documents, once you have those ready to go, please call one of our intake sites or CEDA call center to start the application process over the phone. While conducting a phone application intake, the staff member or intake site worker may request that you send your documents to us or to them while you're on the phone. If you don't have all the documents ready at the time of calling, please don't worry. The intake site worker will keep your application open and you can send us your documents at a later time. Now let's briefly touch on the process of getting us those documents. We can take them in a few different ways: by email, by fax, or by traditional mail. Now, this next part is critical. Your application is not considered complete until we receive all necessary documentation. Again, that's your bills, your proof of income, as well as your proof of residency. And as a reminder, you do not have to go through this process on your own. You can complete this with one of our partner intake sites or by calling our call center, and they will instruct you on how you can submit your documents by either email, fax, or traditional mail. And for those of you that may not be as savvy with the technology, please feel free to ask a loved one who is to assist you with the application process. Now, after applying and you submitted all of your documents, I do want to give you a reminder to keep an eye out for your application status. This point is very important as well. The fastest and easiest way to know what's happening with your application is to follow up with the partner intake site who conducted your intake. Again, you can find our intake site list online at that cedaorg.net/sites website that you see on the slide, or you can contact our call center. Again, that number is 1-800-571-CEDA or 1-800-571-2332. And they will be able to assist you to identify a partner intake site near your home. Now, it can take up to 30 days for our team to finish reviewing your application. However, after your application is received and reviewed, you will receive a confirmation email or letter in the mail with your application ID number, along with next steps required to complete the application process. Again, checking in with the partner site or call center is the best way to stay in the know about your next steps. And that's it regarding the LIHWAP application and intake process. Of course, if you do have any questions on what was discussed, we can address them during the question and answer portion after this presentation. But before transitioning into Q&A, I did want to chat with you about two more brief topics. The first being common reasons that applications are denied, and then share a little bit of information about CEDA's additional program offerings. So let's jump into the most common reasons applications are denied. The common reasons for denial, lack of submitting documentation is the #1 reason why the applications are denied. If you are unable to complete your application over the phone in one sitting, you will absolutely need to submit any outstanding documents by email, fax, or by mail as previously discussed. If you are having challenges accessing or submitting your documents, please let CEDA or one of the partner intake sites know this. The communication will help prevent your application from being dropped. Another thing to keep in mind is when you do fax or email your documents, you will need to include information for all household members on that application. Again, for a full listing of what documents you need to submit, please review our website. Again, it's www.cedaorg.net. Another reason most applications are denied is because the client has submitted wrong documents or incorrect documents, or the documents that are submitted or have been submitted are blurry, or they're poor qualities as far as the images or the photos that are shared. So please keep that in mind when sharing your documents with us, to send quality images or copies on the available information as soon as possible. And that's it for the common reasons for denial. Looks like I accidentally hit the next slide, but I am jumping into the section to highlight CEDA's additional program offerings. So as you can see on this slide, we do have a number of programs available to Cook County residents. Many of you all are familiar with these services, but I just wanted to provide a brief highlight of what resources are available to you. As you can see on this slide, we do have our LIHWAP program, as Reshma mentioned previously, which helps with gas and utility bills in addition to water bill assistance. We also have home weatherization services, housing counseling services, and WIC services, which stands for Women, Infant, and Children. Lastly, we have our Family Support and Community Engagement, or FACE department, which is a program designed for our eligible suburban Cook County families and households. We provide a lot of resources through FACE with internet access, transportation assistance, workforce development, scholarships for college and trade skills, and a wealth of additional resources to provide you with economic relief. Again, that program is for those individuals that live or have family members that live in suburban Cook County. Now, if you do have any interest in learning more about these services or how to apply, again, please visit www.cedaorg.net/find services for more details. I do want to thank you all for your time and participation today. And in case we are unable to answer all of your questions this evening, please reach out to us on social media, our Twitter, LinkedIn, or email your inquiries to us directly at outreach@cedaorg.net. So again, I told you I was going to be a lot of information in a brief shorter time, but that wraps up the CEDA portion of the presentation. I'll now turn it back over to Alex to kick off the question and answer session. Alex, if you're ready, feel free to take it away, sir.
Thank you, James. Just want to say also to remind folks, I know we're throwing a lot of information at you tonight, a lot of phone numbers and links and emails. We will be sending out this slideshow to everyone afterward. So you will have all this information again, and we'll also be sending out our water resource guide and following up with folks. Once again, too, if you want to be connected with the city, if you'd like them to reach out directly to you, you can contact me directly, and I'll drop my email address in once more before the end of the program and tell you how to do that. Lots of questions tonight about the UBR program and about other relief programs. The big one we've gotten over and over again from lots of folks is why the income requirements for UBR are so low. Lori tonight writes, many people make too much money for UBR but still struggle with unmetered bills. What is the equity plan beyond UBR? I'm not sure if that's a question for James or Reshma, but I'll let either of you jump in on that.
I can start.
Reshma, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So, when we were doing this program, one thing we wanted to do is pair closely with CEDA. And the idea of that is for those individuals who are already in the program to make it easy for them to have the same requirements and just be able to sign up for UBR. With LIHWAP, this was before the LIHWAP, the water assistance program was out there. We were trying to make this to make it as seamless as possible. With that said, CEDA has done a lot of effort to increase that rate or that threshold. It increased from 150% to 200%, so a 33% increase. And we look to see ways that we can continue to increase these programs. I will say that the funding is coming from a federal source, and James, I'm of course, please feel free to add in whatever I might be missing, but it's coming from a federal source. And so there are guidelines coming from a federal granting source that tells us what we can do and what we can't do with the program.
Yeah, just to add to that, I get that question quite a bit when I'm in the field. And, to Reshma's point, unfortunately, although we're able to navigate and make certain concessions when it comes to the process, the federal government does decide those income amounts. So it would be up to Congress and, those government entities to decide if those amounts will increase or decrease, in a given program year. What I have seen over the last 5 years of working at CEDA, particularly in regards to the pandemic, is that those income levels are slowly increasing. Again, it may not be fast enough for many of the individuals on this phone or the people that actually need services, but there is hope that, that over the course of time, those levels will be increased, based on need and program participation. So again, we can't do too much to change the federal guidelines. We just have to work with what we have until they change nationally.
Carla asked another question in the chat tonight we've gotten a few times, which is why do the income requirements go off of gross, not net income? What's the reasoning behind that? Can you speak to that?
Can we get some more clarification on growth? You mean, we're not looking at tax forms, if that's the question. What we are looking at is what is the income that is coming off of many different sources. It may be, income that you have as casual labor, it may be income from tips, it may be income from salary and wages. So those are the sources that we're looking at. And again, that models the program that the federal government has put out as well, in terms of what are the criteria to look at. I will, mention, James is absolutely right, that currently there's not much we can do, but one thing we do try to do as a city, just from a legislative stance, is talking to our representatives here at the state and at the federal level to see what they can do to move this. When these programs were put into place, they were trying to target, I think, the ones who are the lowest income that really needed help. But we have made it abundantly clear, as well as many of you here as well, that this needs to be escalated up, and we need to be able to broaden the overall applicant pool, the population that really needs help. And they're listening to that. They've made, honestly, I was really surprised when they made that change from 150 to 200 in a relatively short amount of time, especially when COVID started. So we see that there's movement there, and we continue to work with the federal government and the state governments to see what more we can do.
So for sorry,
go
James.
ahead.
No, you go ahead, James.
Well, I was just going to add to that, in addition to connecting with your local legislators and advocating for, a higher amount, I think one of the big factors is, submitting information through processes like the census and using that data to determine how many people are in need and what the need is. The more participation we get from engaging legislators or filling out the census survey, that will alert Congress to the number of people and their financial situation when it comes to establishing these income guidelines. So again, that's another question that I hear quite a bit in the field. Unfortunately, we don't dictate that locally here at CEDA or at the city of Chicago.
In terms of a lot of the questions we're getting are driving at what do you do for people who are, maybe they don't make too much for UBR, maybe they don't qualify for LIHWAP. What's left for people who are priced out of those, or people who are middle income?
So currently we do have payment plans in place that we talked about, where people can be able to set up a plan that meets their income and cash flow. With that said, we are continuously looking at ways to be able to provide relief, not only in the utility relief setting, but other areas too that can impact overall household income. Like we just did this parking fines and fees, and over there we were able to increase the threshold to 300% of the federal poverty level, and that's also to match up to other parking related programs that we have, and that's something that we have more control to do in the city itself, since it's not a program that's regulated by federal government. But we are looking holistically to see how we can help individuals reduce. But again, from the household overall expense pool, our goals are to continue with more reforms, either in fines and fees or other charges, to make things affordable.
Yeah, and on CEDA's end, it's our goal to just advocate for other organizations or service providers who could assist. Unfortunately, we can't budge on the income levels, but we do try to provide additional resources that can maybe offset some of those costs for that water bill debt. So yes, if there is a situation where you aren't able to get service, please contact us. We may be able to refer you to other organizations, entities, or resources that could help alleviate some of the financial debt that you've incurred, if not necessarily address the debt that you're applying for.
Comptroller, I just had a quick follow-up about the payment plan that you were talking about. Does the city waive fees or fines if folks enroll in a payment plan?
Are you talking about the new program that we have for CPR or?
Yes,
So yes, it's called Clear Path Relief. It's www.chicago.gov/CPR, and Clear Path Relief is very similar to UBR. So you, if you're eligible with the income requirements, same type of application, and if you actually are a part of a UBR, you would automatically be able to get into that program as long as you register. You basically have your debt over the last 3 years get reduced to fine level 1. And we put you on a monthly payment plan for a period of 12 months. And the older debt, older than 3 years, is set aside. And so as long as you make your monthly payments on time, and you actually have two times that you can default, hopefully you don't need to, but if you do make those monthly payments on time, we waive all the penalties and the past due payments past 3 years.
I want to get to a couple of questions briefly at the end here before we move on about renters and about condos and landlords. Mark is watching live tonight. They ask, are there any programs for landlords to get relief on a crazy water bill, as they say?
So, we would love to talk to individuals directly for that, because every case is different. There's different things and options that we can offer, and maybe better options than us just giving sort of generic options here. Again, you may be qualified for a LIHWAP that's coming up. It might be UBR program, and then we can look to see how we can actually reduce some of that.
But to be clear, do those programs apply to people who are landlords, or is it only for owner-occupied
landlords?
units?
Yeah, so currently if you are a renter, these programs currently do not help renters. I mean, we are looking at programs like that to be able to see what we can do from the renter standpoint. If you are a landlord and if you own a 3-flat or a 4-flat, that's where LIHWAP will come in and would be able to provide that relief. The UBR program is only for single family and 2 flats.
And Controller, are there any plans to expand the eligibility for UBR in terms of people who are landlords and different sizes of buildings?
Yeah, we're actively looking at that right now. Actually, that's a process we're going through. So we know that with rental assistance and other programs we do at the city, this has come up quite a bit. So we're looking at ways to be able to implement this.
My final question for tonight, and then I'll throw it over to Cheryl Watson from Blacks and Green again, is from Andrea. Andrea asks, can condo associations apply for relief? We got a couple of questions about whether condo associations can do that.
Right now, if it's a single family or 2-flat, those are the ones that are eligible. If you need a payment plan or something, we can definitely help in looking into that. The LIHWAP program would be for those 3-flat and 4-flats, if the 4-flat is like a condo association. But that's something, again, to contact us. We can work with you to see what we can do to put you on a payment plan or make it more affordable.
Okay, thank you, Controller, and thank you, James, for your questions, for your answers tonight. That's it for the Q&A section. Again, if you want the city to contact you directly, please email me, and I will drop that information in the chat in just a second here. For now, I will hand it back over to Cheryl Watson with Blacks and Green.
Okay, we've had a great round of presenters here. I hope everyone feels that their time spent tonight was worth it, and they learned something from this workshop. We plan to have additional workshops coming down the road. But now that you've got all of this rich understanding of the different state and Cook County plans that are out there, local plans here in Chicago, we're going to go a little bit deeper to help you have the tools to know how to find and research information that will help you in your struggles in trying to get out of this situation and really make a difference in your confidence in that you can overcome this. You don't have to sit in a corner and feel sad about it or just let it mound up on you. There's things that you can do yourself, and that is learning how to submit a Freedom of Information Act FOIA request. And this type of document is where you can get the necessary things that you may not have had access before about your account and what options you have and how you can also present your case.
Hello, everyone. Are we still here? I know it's been a long night, but we're almost done. And I am going to share this really great tool just in case if you need to get information, if you have questions about your account, this is a really good way to do it. And the city did say that if you have a water account that you have access to the internet, you can actually sign up for their payments, and you can see the billing history for the last 5 years. So that's a really easy way to get access to your billing information. But in case that you don't have access to that, there is another way to get information about your account. So what is FOIA? FOIA is the Freedom of Information Act, and it's basically a federal law and a state law that it sort of helps people to get access to public records. There is the federal version of it, and then there's the Illinois version of it. So what is a public record? In very broad terms, is essentially any document that a public agency produces. Obviously, there's a list of exemptions, but for the purposes of this workshop, we're going to get through this pretty quickly. And let me see if I can get to the next slide. Okay, so the way that you want to use FOIA to get access to your records is that you can file a Freedom of Information request to the city's finance department and to the water department. Why those two departments? So the water department has a history of service, right? Like if you had called for a specific thing, then they would have a list of all the service calls that they had to your property. For the finance aspect of it, like your billing history and all of that stuff, that one has to go through the finance department. Okay, and you can make the request in any way, shape, or form. You can call it, you can send an email, but it is really important for you to be able to document when you send the request, because according to the state law, the city has about 7 working days to respond to your request. So you want to be able to have a record of when you submitted the request, okay? Be very, very specific about the records that you want. Why? Because the city and county or any agency for that matter can deny your request if it's too broad and if it's going to create a burden for that agency. So you want to be very specific. You want to have the address or the account number. You want to have dates. You want to be very specific with the records that you want. Now, filing a FOIA sounds overwhelming, but it's actually really easy. It's 3 easy steps. You identify the agency that you want to connect to and the agency that you want to get records from. In this case is going to be the finance department, and I've provided the direct contact for them, and the water department. These are the only 2 departments that you're going to need for this. Number 2, let me see if I can get this slide to work. There it is. Write a letter. Be very specific. I request the billing history for account number or the address number. And this second part is really important. If you are not the owner of the property, you need to make sure that you have a letter from the property owner waiving their privacy. Under Illinois law, there is a list of exemptions. One of those exemptions includes privacy concerns, right? Because we want to make sure that individuals' privacy is respected. So this is why that letter is needed to get information. And lastly, you want to, once you file the request, you want to make sure that you document that the agency has received it and that you check back within 7 working days. Unless you, of course, receive the information before that. And if you need a sample of a letter or you want to see what a FOIA looks like, we can also share a sample. Our colleagues over at the Better Government Association have a sample letter that works really well. I'll be sure to drop that in the chat as soon as I can. And that it's pretty easy. So what if you don't get a response? Well, I would say that the first thing is contact the public information officer. I have found them to be very helpful. The public information officer at the finance department was super helpful. Call them, they really want to help because it's their job to make sure that the public has access to this information. But if that doesn't work, under Illinois law, you do have another recourse, and that is by filing what is called a request for review. You're essentially contacting the Illinois Public Access Council, which is actually under Kwame Raoul's office. And you want to be very, specific about the history of the communication between the agency and yourself. And you want to tell them why you think that the public agency unjustly denied your request. So this gets a little bit into more nuanced things, and you do have to, write sort of like a lawyer, or fake writing like a lawyer. So there's a ton of resources for this stuff as well. So feel free to reach out. There are so many organizations that are very much pro open government and transparency, and they will very happily help you. I see a question on here. Why are water bill records private? That's a really good question. I'm not sure. I believe that this is actually part of the state and how they define privacy. So I'm not a lawyer and I'm not going to get into that stuff, but you're right. Within the water resource guide that I put together, there is a way for you to look at your property and see if there's any statutory liens against your property. Like the city has stopped, well, they said to me during the reporting process that the city has stopped issuing statutory tax liens in 2012. But if you had any kind of debt prior to that, I would highly recommend you do just a check on your property to see if there's any statutory liens filed against them, because one of the women that I highlighted in the story, Sylvia Taylor, I'm sure she's part of this workshop. She didn't know that she had a statutory lien on her property. And the way to do that is essentially listed in the water resource guide. It is a step-by-step process. And, that's all I have for now. I know we ran super long. I'm around if you guys have any more questions, but with that, I want to thank all of our panelists and all of you for coming and learning about this and sticking around. It's been 2 hours, so thank you for staying. And we're here to help you and provide more resources.